learned how to perceive the form of the Lord in his heart on the platform of devotional service. And in the 6th canto, 16th chapter, there's an entire chapter where he's chanting beautiful verses in glorification of the Lord. And at the end of the glorification of the Lord, just for a short period of 15 days or so, Chitraketu Maharaj took darshan of the Lord in form. Krishna comes in the form of Lord Sankarsan, and he gives darshan to Chitraketu Maharaj. So this is the physical, spiritual beauty of the Lord before Chitraketu Maharaj. And when he sees him, Chitraketu Maharaj then experiences a great, great, great change. And this verse is 6:16:31. Now that we understand the beauty of Krishna, now we know that how we must perceive the beauty of Krishna on the platform of devotional service, the way the gopis, the way Rupa Goswami, the way the acharyas have given us. Now we also understand what happens when we are performing serious devotional service and taking darshan of Krishna. Here the verse tells us, Tad darshanadvasta samasta kilbishaha swasta malanta karano bhyayan munihi pravriddha bhaktya pranaya shulochanaha prahrishta roma nama adi purusham. The translation is very nice. As soon as Maharaj Chitraketu saw the Supreme Lord, the first thing that happened to him when he saw the beauty of the Lord was he became cleansed of material contamination. This is the first thing that happens when we see the beauty of Krishna. Whatever material contamination in the heart, it's taken out. So sometimes you may say, but Prabhu, I just saw Krishna, I still feel contaminated. What's wrong, The reason is that we are not seeing Krishna with our hearts. And we are not seeing Krishna with devotional service. If we see Krishna with devotional service, then the material contamination will go. It will go. And that is what Chitraketu Maharaj did. When people read this verse, they think, hey, so he saw him, material contamination went. But remember, for 15 days, 24 hours, he did nothing but do devotional service. And then he qualified himself to see Krishna. So for us to actually understand and appreciate the beauty of Krishna, we have to qualify ourselves on the strength of devotional service. And that qualification comes by hearing, by speaking about Krishna. The gopis qualified themselves to drink in the beauty of Krishna. Because grahe grahe, gopa vaddu kadambe, always they were remembering Krishna at every point of their lives. So material contamination leaves the heart and we become situated in original Krishna consciousness. This is the first symptom when we take in the beauty of Krishna. Then, what happens? Chitraketu Maharaj became silent and grave. Remember SG, Singapore, SG. Remember silent and remember grave. The moment you take darshan of the Lord and you're doing nice devotional service, Krishna gives you the blessing of silence. Silence means we don't talk nonsense. Not that we don't talk, but we talk. But whatever we talk is about Krishna, related to Krishna. So if two devotees meet, they will talk something about Krishna at some point. Some service, something that they can do for Krishna. This is the mood of a devotee. They will not come together and talk about the third person. In Vedic culture they say, when three people are talking to each other, they talk about the fourth person. When the third person has left, the two persons remaining will speak about the third person. And when two persons are talking and one person leaves, that person still needs to talk about that. He finds another friend and starts talking to him about the third person. This is the nature of the material world. That is why silence in devotional service does not mean we become quiet. We become quiet to the material topics, but we become very loud to the spiritual topics. So he became silent and he became grave. Another point our acharyas say about silent is that we reflect on our own devotional service. That is the meaning of silence. Instead of reflecting on other people's devotional service, Prabhu, I see you're not chanting very nicely. I see you don't bow very nicely. Your tilak is a bit crooked. Instead of saying all these things about people, better we just keep our mouths zipped and concentrate on Krishna. Better we reflect on ourselves. When Parikshit Maharaj was born, he was looking everywhere for Krishna. He was assessing the world. Parikshit means to examine. He was examining every nook and corner for Krishna. We should not examine every nook and corner for imperfections. That's what we do. But instead of doing that, we should see the hand of Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj saw the hand of Krishna in the curse of the Brahmana. That is why he is known as Parikshit. He reflected on himself, sat down, didn't waste time finger pointing, blaming people, heard Bhagavatam and finished his life. Better we also do that. Because we don't know when our life will be finished. At least he had noticed, 7 days, then you're gone. We have no notice. We have no idea. After we walk away from the center, or maybe in the center we may go, or maybe while having prasadam, just when that last bit goes in, we are gone. Who knows? Anything can happen. Washing hand in the toilet, we collapse. People leave just like that. Yamaraj doesn't wait, okay, you take bath, then I'll take you away. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Long time ago in Wellington, one devotee died while he was taking snan, and he collapsed in the bath and he just died. And when they came, they found that the water was going on and he had left. And one devotee, I remember, asked my Guru Maharaj, why, Yamaraj did not wait for him to finish bath. What to say? There's nothing to say to such questions, except for the fact that death waits for no man. So before that happens, better we reflect. That is silence. And those who are silent, then they understand this point of death. And that is why they become grave. Grave means dhira. And grave also means we remember our grave. Right? Graveyard. We remember the day of our death. And knowing that, we know that time is precious. So whenever we can come to take darshan of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, we should take them into our hearts. We should be very peaceful. And you find, as he became that way, because of love for the Lord, tears fell from his eyes, his hair stood on end, and with great devotion and love, Chitraketu Maharaj offered his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the mood. And Prabhupada writes in the purport so nicely, He says if one regularly sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the temple, by the way, that applies directly to us, right? So let's hear the purport. Prabhupada says if one regularly sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the temple, one will gradually become disinfected of material desires. What a nice point. One becomes gradually, it doesn't become overnight. It's not an overnight thing. Millions of years of not remembering Krishna doesn't mean that overnight we remember Krishna. But gradually we will become disinfected of what? Of material desires. Simply by visiting the temple and seeing the deity. And when one is freed from all the results of sinful activities, one will become purified. And with a healthy mind, completely cleansed, he will increasingly make progress in Krishna consciousness. So if anyone asks the question, how to increasingly make progress in Krishna consciousness, 6:16:31 gives the entire formula. Don't have to look anywhere else. It's all found in one verse, given to us by His divine grace. The whole formula is there. And it starts by contemplating on the beauty of Krishna. So this is the part of the beauty of Krishna. Now to conclude, the second part of the verse addresses the other point. The Devatas saw the beauty of Krishna, but they missed one very important point. They thought, wow, Krishna is the most beautiful, glorious, most perfect. Dexterous means most carefully constructed creation of Brahma. They got that part wrong. Somehow or another, the Devatas got everything right. They saw Krishna so nicely, but they said, wow, when Brahmaji created this being, he did a good job. But actually Prabhupada makes the correction that the Devatas were mistaken. Because it's very clear that Brahmaji himself is created by Krishna. Brahmaji came out from the lotus flower of Garbhodakashai Vishnu. Garbhodakashai Vishnu comes from Karnodakashai Vishnu. Karnodakashai Vishnu is coming from the Chaturvyuha incarnations of the Lord. That comes from the first Narayana. First Narayana comes from the first Chaturvyuha incarnation of the Lord. And before that he is coming from Balaram, and Balaram, Sankarsan, and Sankarsan is coming from Balaram, and Balaram is coming from Krishna. So how far away is Brahma? Even from Krishna. Even from the original Krishna, Brahma is many, 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 many times removed. That's why he had to meditate for so long and perform austerity to understand that he's actually coming from the origin of all origins, and that is Krishna. So why do the Devatas think that way? The answer is given in Bhagavatam. If you look in the 6th canto, 9th chapter, 25th verse, the answer is there. It's a very famous verse. Ya eka isho nijamaya yanaha sasarjayena anusjama vishwam vayam nayasyapi puraha samihitam Pashyamalingam prita ishamaninaha. It is the last line that is important for us. Pashyamalingam prita ishamaninaha. The translation is nice. The Devatas are singing this verse. This verse is sung by the Devatas. So the Devatas are singing at the 9th canto because they are in big trouble. That's normally the time when the Devatas pray to Krishna. It's very consistent. One thing very consistent about the Devatas is whenever they are in trouble, whenever it's a 999 emergency, instead of running here and there, trying to solve the problem, they are very consistent. They run to Krishna. Right? So in the 9th canto, they ran to Krishna. No, in the 6th canto, 9th chapter, they run to Krishna. In the 8th canto, they run to Krishna. 6th canto, they run to Krishna 2-3 times actually. But in this case, they ran to Krishna because Vritrasur, the great demon, had come to vanquish the entire clan of the Devatas. Okay? And Vritrasur was so powerful, born of the austerity of his father Tvashta. And Vritrasur is not an ordinary personality because in previous life he was Chitraketu Maharaj. He was Chitraketu Maharaj. So he was very powerful. But because he was inadvertently cursed, because Narada Muni wanted to hasten his going back to Krishna, in the next life he took the form of a demon, physical form. But in his heart and consciousness he was always meditating on Krishna. And he was up against Indra, because Indra, again, just to secure his position as Swargaloka's chief, he had somehow or another beheaded his guru Vishwakarma. No, was it Vishwakarma? Vishwarupa. He had beheaded Vishwarupa, and Vishwarupa's father was Tvashta. And Vishwarupa's only fault was that he was related on both sides through mother and father to the Devatas and to the Asuras. So when Indra told him, when you perform the sacrifice, you please do so much nice sacrifice that the Devatas will become very strong to defeat the demons. Vishwarupa said, well, actually on my mother's side, they are my uncles. So let's do a bit of, parity. Let's do a little bit just to keep them neutral, so that whenever they fight, it'll always be a draw. 0-0, 1-1, 2 or 3 or like that. But it will never be a clear victory. So when Indra was fighting, he thought, how come Vishwarupa is doing something so nice, but in every battle we fight, but we can't win, we don't lose either. So one day he sat close to Vishwarupa, and then he heard all the mantras for the sake of the Devatas, and then he heard in extra low tone all the mantras for the sake of the Asuras. So without thinking, because he was so attached to Swargaloka, he did not think that Vishwarupa was a Brahmana. He just chopped off his head. And by that curse of chopping his head, Indra was now in trouble. Because Tvashta, the father, actually created Vritrasur to kill Indra. So Vritrasur comes and nobody can fight him. And now this verse is sung by Indra and company. The same Devatas who see the beauty of Krishna and Rajasuya sacrifice, in the 6th canto they chant this verse. And they admit why they cannot see the supremacy of Krishna. In the same way, why in this verse they cannot see Krishna as the Supreme. And the reason is simple. They say first, Krishna, you created us by your external potency. It is actually by your mercy that we are expanding this creation. So you see, they accept that actually Sasarja Vishwam, they are expanding this creation, but they are secondary creators. The chief is still Krishna. Krishna gives them the potency to create. For example, if mother and father have a child, they cannot correctly say that they are the creators of the child, because the potency to create is coming from Krishna. If Krishna does not give the potency, no matter how much they try, they will never have child. And even if they say that they cannot have child, they can have child. So many times we have seen this in the past. Prabhupada writes about this in the purports also. So the point is, without Krishna, nothing can come into being. Nothing can come into being. So the Devatas accept it. But they say, in all these creations, you are creating everything by you being the super soul in our hearts. So actually Krishna in the heart as super soul, he is the inspiration for all creation. Whenever we do a service, we forget that the service is nicely performed because somewhere in that service, Krishna has inspired us. This is the beauty of Krishna. those who see the beauty of Krishna, they translate that beauty into understanding that his beauty is also in giving us the chance to perform service. This is the meaning of beauty. So the Devatas got that right. But now they admit the last point. We are unable to see you because all of us think that we are separate and we are independent. Pasyamalingam Pritat. Pritat means different. Pasyamalingam Pritat Ishamaninaha. Each of one of us thinks that we are separate. And if you read the purport in the first line, Prabhupada says, here is an explanation of why the conditioned soul cannot see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. This is the reason. This is the reason why Duryodhana saw Krishna face to face but could not see him face to face. You know what I mean? He could see him, but he could not accept him. So we can see Jagannath. But if we think we are independent of Jagannath, then we don't see him actually. This is the difference. So if we want to see Krishna, then we should understand that we are not separate and we are never independent. We are always dependent on Krishna. And we are dependent on the Vaishnava's mercy to come to Krishna. If we have that mood, then the beauty of Krishna we will accept in the right way. Then we will not say what the Devatas have said here incorrectly. So the Devatas are in a very, very unique position. They know they are at fault. They can diagnose their disease. At the same time, they are caught by the disease. Doesn't that sound familiar? Isn't it? Because we are also suffering the same disease. I can sit here and speak till the cows come home, nice tattva. But the moment I go out, right, if something happens to some object that I like, oh, I can't take it. Because I'm attached to it. I cannot accept that this is what Krishna wants. It's very difficult for us. So whenever we want to be separate from the vision of the Lord, we lose the vision of the Lord. It's a nice point. When we are separate from the vision of the Lord, we lose the vision of the Lord. When we are separate from the interest of the Lord, we lose the vision of the Lord. This is very important. And the result of it is Tato Vanyatha Kinchana Yad Vivekshataha Pritat Drishashtat Krita Rupa Namabihi. What is the next two lines? I forget. Na karhichit kwachi dushtita no. Na karhichit kwapicha dushtita matihi. Then now what is the last line? Labhe tavata natahu ivaspadam. Very important verse. Because in this verse, Narada Muni tells to Vyasadeva, anything that you describe, which is separate from the vision and the interest of the Lord, will only serve to agitate your mind. So the next time, Prabhus and Matajis, we become agitated, even though we are looking at Krishna and we are still agitated, please remember, the reason for it is deeper in the heart. We cannot accept what Krishna has given us because we are Pashyamalingam Prita Ishamanina. We want to be independent of him. No, Krishna, you don't know. I'm telling you this is good for me. So you have to give me this. Then what to say? Then we are independent. No, Krishna, this is the only way. Okay? This is the way of devotional service. I know better. So you have to give me now these things. Then only I can do nice devotional service for you. Then of course we become disturbed. Because the very thing you ask is not what you deserve. So separate, independent nature. This is the biggest obstacle to Krishna consciousness. But then having said that, we should conclude then why are the Devatas still considered devotees of the Lord? They are considered devotees of the Lord because even though they are in danger, they don't, unlike the demons, they don't just do things on their own. When they are in difficulty, they have faith in Krishna. In the churning of the milk ocean, if you remember, the Devatas were very disturbed because the demons became too strong. Again, they come to Brahma. Brahma and them go to Krishna. Nice prayers are there. Krishna's heart melts. Krishna says, go and churn the milk ocean and take out Amrit. But when you do that, you have to be very, very peaceful and you should not be agitated. You should be patient and you should not be angry. In anger and agitation, nothing is achieved. But in peace and patience, everything is obtained. Such nice advice from Krishna. And those who take the beauty of Krishna into heart, they are never agitated or angry. In fact, they are very peaceful and they are patient. We must understand, Prabhus and Matajis, that there is a time for everything. And Krishna told them in the churning of the milk ocean, now your time is not there. You have to make truce with the demons and get this nectar, otherwise you will never win this. Sometimes we push, sometimes we're in family situation, sometimes we preach to someone, and we push them very hard with a gun on the head. You have to become Krishna conscious. But we don't understand that everything has a time. Better we just sow the seed and serve them lovingly. And at the appropriate time, Jagannath himself will transform the hearts of the devotees. This way, we are not agitated. This way, we are peaceful and patient. Otherwise, we are always in the numbers game. Otherwise, it becomes a corporate culture. How many things here, how many things there, why we are not getting enough people. Prabhupada's mood was never that. Prabhupada always said, do not be discouraged. You plan as big as you want for Krishna, but after that, you please leave it to Krishna. This is the mood. So the Devatas had one qualification. They obeyed Krishna. Krishna told them, you go and churn the milk ocean. Many things will come out. Don't be attracted to them. Let the demons take them. Don't worry about them. But at the end, Amrit will come. And even when Amrit comes, don't run after the Amrit. The demons will grab it. Instead, be peaceful. Wait. Very difficult, huh? Imagine, when Amrit is coming and everybody is running after it. If you're in Singapore, particularly with the Kyasu culture, it's very difficult to be, to actually have this maintenance of discipline. Very, very difficult. Very difficult. But they agreed because they're devotees. So they went to shake hands with Bali. Bali shook hands with them. They went to carry Mandara mountain. Mandara mountain, they were very strong, they carried, but Mandara mountain is solid gold, It's not 24 karat gold, it's solid, pure gold. And Mandara mountain was so powerful, eventually they lost stamina and it crushed them. The Devatas shouted for Krishna, the demons just shouted, ah! But because they shouted for Krishna, Krishna came on Garuda and just Garuda picked up Mandara like you pick up tissue paper. And Krishna just glanced over the Devatas and the demons. Why did he glance over the demons? Because if demons didn't get out, the Devatas won't get Amrit. So Krishna is the well-wisher of everyone, but he favors the devotees. So he got both of them up, they became refreshed. They run to the milk ocean, and Vasuki is there, the snake. They tie him around. The Devatas, led by the Lord, they come in front to hold. The demons, very silent, became very angry, sulky, Sometimes have you met people when they sulk? You tell them, Prabhu, go to the back. Not happy. So in Bhagavatam, they give the description. The demons sulked. They refused to move, Then the Lord understood. The demons felt, we are very knowledgeable, expert in Vedic knowledge, expert in culture and everything. You want us to hold the back of the snake? Not very auspicious. We will hold the front. So there also Krishna adjusted. He told the Devatas, never mind, we will go to the back. This is devotional service. Devotees always learn how to adjust to circumstances. Not that this is the standard. You don't come to standard, you're going to hell, Prabhu, I'm very sorry. Once upon a time, somebody was kind to us, forgave us, and that's why we're here today. But once we have come to a standard, we want everyone to come to the standard. If Krishna could adjust with the demons, why can't we adjust with our own minds? Because our minds are demonic. So this is the point. So when he became this way, then all the Devatas moved with him. And when they moved with him, what happened was, they started churning. Now the problem is, there's a reason why Krishna went to the front. He was actually helping the Asuras. But these silly people, they didn't realize by standing in front, Vasuki became very tired. And he started emitting poison. And the poison came to who first? All the Asuras. So they were inhaling poison, exhaling poison, inhaling poison. There was no more oxygen. There was only poison. And they were feeling like they were fainting. Even at the back, the Devatas were exhaling and inhaling all this fume. They all became blackened, Bhagavatam tells us. So at that point, they became very discouraged. Vasuki, Prabhupada writes, looked like he was about to die. Vasuki, the snake, the serpent, looked like he was about to die. So at that point, Krishna realized, my God, these people really can't do anything on their own. So what does Krishna do? He comes, right? And he comes in the form of light, gentle breeze and nice rain. And he gives them some semblance of coolness. This is Krishna. But now as they churned enthusiastically, Mount Mandara had no support and it went down. Again they became disheartened. Krishna took the form of Matsya, the tortoise, Kurma, the tortoise. And he lifted this wonderful Mandara. Mandara mountain is huge, but Bhagavatam tells us the back of Kurma the Lord was 800,000 miles long. That was the size of a shell. Bhagavatam gives you the description. 800,000 miles, inconceivable for us. And when he held it up, he realized that they didn't have strength to churn. So the Lord also had to churn. He had to work hard. But Bhagavatam says that churning was nothing for him. It is like, when your back is itching, what do? You go and put yourself to the back of the wall. Sometimes, we do it, When we grow older, we do these things because we don't care. Or when we're young, we don't do this. So people do that. They go and stand there and they scratch. That is also coming from Krishna because he started it with Kurma Avatar. It was just scratching. And it was nothing for him. But even then, they could not churn effectively. So what happened? The Lord had to come as a 1,000-handed form on top Mount Mandara. He sat there and using it as a fulcrum, he also churned. So the Lord came as the 1,000-handed form, came as Mount Mandara, came in the form of gentle breezes and nice rain. Then he entered into the hearts of Vasuki in the mode of ignorance. He entered into the hearts of the demons in the mode of passion. And he entered into the hearts of the Devatas in the mode of goodness, just to encourage them to continue the churning. How much help they had! They were practically all around. Maeswara Krishna had just done the whole pastime himself. This is the greatness of the Lord. Why? Because the Devatas had faith in him. Even though they were mistaken in their idea of who is the creator, even then see the kindness. This kindness of the Lord, to conclude, is his real beauty. This kindness is his real beauty. His mercy is his beauty. That is why his beauty as we see it is enhanced. It's so beautiful because his quality is beautiful. His mercy is beautiful. Everything about him is beautiful. If we had time, we should have sung Madhuram Madhuram actually. Because this is the beauty of Krishna. That he's so kind. And at the end of it, when all the churning was done, and Dhanvantari comes up with Amrit, the Devatas remembered Krishna. Because the demons jumped on the Amrit. And they started fighting amongst themselves. And then Krishna said, I'm very happy with you all. Meaning the Devatas. You have obeyed me to the end. And now he took the last form. In this Kurma avatar, how many forms in the churning of the milk ocean Krishna took actually? It's unprecedented. In whole Bhagavatam, you will never find in one episode, he took so many different forms. And the last form he took was Mohini Murti. And when he came as Mohini Murti and the demons were fighting to get the Amrit, when they saw her, what happened was, immediately the demon said, beautiful lady, where have you come from? Are you married? This is demon. The moment you see someone, you never ask, you look very nice, are you married? If anyone did that in our center, Mataji's, you please tell me. But in Bhagavatam, the demons do it, they come up to him and say, my dear beautiful lady, you are so beautiful, you look like this, you look like that, are you married? And then they said that now we are fighting and we have lost our senses. See how smart the demons are, they know they have lost their senses, but they don't turn to Krishna. But even then, Krishna forces them now to turn to him in the form of Mohini. So they say, because you are very beautiful, we think you are very intelligent. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, this is the height of foolishness. That you connect beauty with intelligence. This is demonic mentality. So they say, because you're beautiful, you must be very intelligent. So I'm going to give you now the Amrit. And you now decide everything nicely for us. So Mohini Murti said, very good. Go and take a bath because you all are filled with all this soot and everything. After that, offer oblation, sit down, do the mantra, sit on kushagras. Then I will deliver everything to everyone. Everybody sits, one row here, one row there. If you notice, even in those days, they didn't sit in circles, they sat in rows. They sat in rows. There is Vedic evidence for that also. And once they sat down, Mohini Murti started from the Devatas. Now, this is dangerous. But the demons were so attracted to the beauty of Krishna. See the beauty of Krishna. It's so beautiful, even those who are independent, those who want to be separate, even they have to say, never mind. Doesn't matter. And they kept giving themselves the favorable arguments. No, she'll come to us, don't worry. She finished the whole Devatas, there was nothing left. And then she assumed the form of her real self, the Lord. And then the demons realized, we have been properly tricked. Properly tricked. And this is Krishna. And the reason why Krishna did that is because he is Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Mattaha Sarvam Pravartati. Iti Matva Vajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha. And if you read Samanvitaha, Bhava Samanvitaha, word to word, Prabhupada says, is you please turn to Krishna with great attention. Isn't it? You read the word to word with great attention. Now you read the translation. There's no great attention there. It's not there. It disappears. Why? Because with great attention, Prabhupada has actually put it by saying, the wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. The great attention is found in the last three words. With all their hearts. In other words, one cannot love Krishna until one becomes greatly attentive to Krishna. And this is what Kunti Mata says in 1.8.42 also. Tvaime ananya vishaya matir madhu patir asakrit. Right? Ratim udvahata adha gange vauham udanrati. That all the rivers, just like the rivers go to the sea, may I, my Lord, Tvaime ananya, may I be undiverted in my attention to you. So let us pray to be undiverted in our attention to the beauty of Krishna. And when we do that, let us be attentive to what Krishna wants, not what we want. Let us be attentive to what the Vaishnavas will be pleased with, not what we will be pleased with. That is beauty. The gopis never thought Krishna must please us. They were always thinking how we should please Krishna. So we should work in such a way that we should always think, what would please Krishna? What would please the Vaishnavas? And then automatically the mind is controlled, the senses are controlled, then we really contemplate on Krishna. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Gurudev ki, Jai Gaura Priyananda. I have 5 minutes and I can take one question and then we're running off for another program. Are there any questions? Yes, Madam Prabhu.
Thank you for a nice class.
Thank you for listening.
Prabhu, we hear that Krishna doesn't step out of Vrindavan even a moment. This was how do we understand then that Krishna spent only 11 years and he was out of Vrindavan?
It's a nice point. It is stated in Bhagavatam that actually, factually speaking, Krishna left Vrindavan and never returned. And yet all the pastimes of Krishna speak about him in Vrindavan. So what's happening? First of all, the activities of Krishna are inconceivable, which means Krishna can be simultaneously in one place and not be in one place. So Krishna reserves the right to continue his pastimes in such a way that he enhances the remembrance of the devotees in the form of separation. So for the gopis, the Leela always is that Krishna leaves and he leaves Vrindavan. Then the gopis remember all the pastimes that they had with him during the time when he is in Vrindavan. And those pastimes are enacted and reenacted, enacted and reenacted. Simultaneously, Prabhupada writes in the purports of Bhagavatam, actually Krishna originally never leaves Vrindavan. Because wherever Vrindavan is, Krishna is there. Because the mood of Vrindavan is what actually captivates Krishna. So actually, the Shastras and Acharyas tell us that factually speaking, Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. But simultaneously, to continue his pastime and increase the remembrance of him, he appears to leave Vrindavan. And then he is in Dwarka. And while he is in Dwarka, he is Dwarkanath and Dwarkadish. But at the same time, his pastimes in Vrindavan continue. So who can understand this? Prabhupada says it's not possible for us to understand because Krishna is Achintya. And because he's simultaneously one and the same. So the Krishna in Dwarka, the Krishna in Vrindavan, and as Prabhupada said, the Krishna in any place where Vrindavan atmosphere is created is still Krishna. So when Prabhupada was asked this question, he would reply by saying, Strictly, it is correct that Krishna continues to stay in Vrindavan as the original form of Shyamsundar. In fact, in one point, Prabhupada even makes the distinction that the Krishna in Vrindavan is considered the highest mood, and then the Krishna in Dwarka is in the mood of opulence. But at other points, Prabhupada says there is no difference now between Krishna in Dwarka and Krishna in Vrindavan. Why? Because Krishna is absolute Prabhu. When he's whole, he's whole. When he's separate, he's wholly separate. So whatever that he does is complete and it is perfect. That's why in the transcendental world, 2 plus 2 is 4, 2 minus 2 is 4, 2 divided by 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4, no 2 also 4, because it's always complete. But because our mental capacity is limited to the material sphere, it is impossible for us to fully grasp that fact. So Prabhupada said, grasp it on the point of faith. And Prabhupada said that wherever the atmosphere of remembrance of Krishna, Krishna Smaranam is there, then be sure that Krishna in his original form of Shyam Sundar is always there. So as long as we remember these beautiful shlokas, as long as we are unflinchingly attached to Bhagavatam, then Krishna is always there in his original form. That is sufficient for us. If you want to know the nitty-gritties of it, Prabhupada then told a devotee. One time a devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, how is the spiritual world? You say every walk is a dance, every speech is a song. Is there day, night in spiritual world? What does Krishna do? Does he do this? Does he do that? And Prabhupada said, why don't you just go there and find out? Just go there and find out. It's much easier. So this is the point that sometimes Prabhupada tried to tell us. So in this way, once we understand that Krishna is absolute, Prabhu, then this point becomes less perplexing for us. Is that all right, Prabhu? I can take one more question if it's not too long. Yes, now we've got to put.
Prabhuji, we quoted the...
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class. We quoted this verse 6:9:25, in which the demigods are praying to the Lord.
Yes.
And they are saying that they are unable to see because they think that we are separate and we are independent gods.
Yes.
But we also see that whenever they are in trouble, they reach to the Supreme Lord.
Yes.
So in a way, they are dependent on Him.
Yes.
So do they mean to say that they are dependent but they are not surrendered?
Good point. There are so many levels of surrender. Complete surrender would mean that a pure devotee is the person who completely surrenders. Very often what happens is for struggling devotees is that we surrender when we are in trouble or when we need to surrender. So, on a need-to-know basis, we have this in the world, isn't it? So same thing for devotees. On a need-to basis, I will surrender to Krishna. On other days when everything is fine, when I can survive, then okay, Krishna is there, but it's alright. So that's the difference between the gopis and the devatas, for example. The devatas could understand technically, could understand theoretically, but because they were not surrendered totally, there were times like this verse shows that they could not properly understand who Krishna is. And it's the same for struggling devotees or devotees who come into the movement initially. We don't understand the import of 10.8, that Krishna is the source of all things material and spiritual. So very often when something material happens, we think it has nothing to do with Krishna. But even that has something to do with Krishna. But the great devotees see everything to do with Krishna. So because they are more surrendered, Prabhu, their level of dependence allows them not to be independent, but dependent on Krishna, very naturally. So if we increase the progress and quality of devotional service, Krishna willing, by the mercy of Prabhupada and the devotees, we will also come to the point where it is not only in difficult times we remember and become surrendered, but in all times we are dependent on Krishna and we are very alert to the interest and vision of Krishna. So the devatas do us a big favor here, because they show us how it's possible to understand something and yet act in other ways, because that understanding has not become realization. We have not practiced it yet. We are speaking about it, but we haven't put it into practice. That's why we're agitated. Is that helpful? Okay, sorry, we don't have enough time now and we have to stop here. But it's so nice to see devotees coming for Bhagavatam. Please keep coming. You'll find that Bhagavatam is very sweet, very relishable, and you find that you don't sleep actually when you hear Bhagavatam. I know Bhagavatam is a great cure for insomnia. It is true. But somehow Bhagavatam is so powerful. The cure for insomnia is actually not to sleep. The cure for insomnia is that you sleep in a regulated way. So don't sleep when you're hearing Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam will make everything nice. And supposing nothing is nice, then come back to Bhagavatam again. And the more we are with Bhagavatam, the more we can tolerate the difficulties of the world. Hare Krishna. So